Traditional Aboriginal law prohibited the breach of boundaries, which governed the religious lands of other tribes. These boundaries were recognised by specific land formations. Totemic alliance with specific animal life determined the bloodline links through songs and ceremonies. During colonisation, as part of the practice of genocide, the governments and military defined strategies of massacres, where certain tribes were enforced to carry out the killings and forced capture and incarceration of tribal leaders and Marlborough and Mulga Kadak men, spiritual men from other tribes. These groups were to become known as black trackers. War was never known, as there was never an intrusion into other tribal lands for the purpose of conquering land. This was against the religious laws of Aboriginal people. Today, as a result of mining, we see many Aboriginal people from other cultural language areas engaging in the destruction of sacred grounds belonging to other language groups.
The time has come for people to decide for a blood-stained dirty dollar or the beauty of our land. I have no king plate or breastplate hanging around my neck. I give great homage to our warriors who were chained and shackled, incarcerated into the forbidden lands. The Yarragadee underground waterway in our religion and laws was created like all other waterways, including above ground water, by the great serpent the Woggle. You must leave this water untouched. Industrial propaganda, paid media, religious hypocrisy and political academia attempt to forge the belief that those responsible for creating this environmental holocaust by continuously pillaging and plundering the natural resources of our land will be those who will heal the damage and reduce climate change. Only late breastfed fools will believe that. There are many introduced prophets and saviours on crosses that blemish our lands, forged of belief systems from foreign countries, alien to our creation stories that have linked us to the belonging of this land and laws since the beginning of time. Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Shintoism, Buddhism and all other world religions contaminate the true indigenous spirituality of this land and laws that have governed the ceremonies of our 14 great nations. The knowledge of how to nurture and maintain life with life. The great Porongrups, the oldest granite formation on the earth, 1,000 million years old. Stories of relations giving evidence to holes where the spirits dwell. This was the very first place on earth that flora bore colour, the red of the kangaroo paw, in an area where scientifically it is believed that the greatest variation of biodiversity exists. It must have been the very concept of what a Garden of Eden was meant to be, this our land of flowers. Yagan, Yoganga, Midjigaroo, Bulbuck camped and hunted on the grounds of the Derbil Yarragadee, the Swan River. We are still here today and so are our children. I would like to respectfully recognise the great elders and the warriors who were at the time of colonisation the Buddhias of their Budja, their lands, from the Northern Midlands, the lands of the Banksia, ceremonies, the great elder Walo. Weep and Munda's territories of the Hills peoples, Yalganga territories of the lakes and the wetlands regions, Midjigaroo and Banyalo, lands of the people of the great swamps. Aboriginal people were described by J.S. Batty's Encyclopedia of Western Australia as being without art or manufacture, with an absence of moral or spiritual sense and a baffling ineptitude and lack of intelligence. No doubt the rapid death of the tribes will lead to absolute extinction and so solve some of the difficulties of our colony. Already reduced to a mere handful, it will be the survival of the fittest. I say our ancestors were strong, with a determined spirit of resistance, surviving against strategies of genocide and massacres. For on the 19th of September 2006, Justice Wilcox in the High Court announced a successful native title claim for Nyungar people. The cultural and spiritual link has been maintained and unbroken for the past 155 years. In dreams, our belonging to the land are bonded to the sacred red ochre bloodline stories and the white ochre sites of fertility and nurturing of our great Nyungar women who survived against atrocities that violated their very right of life. The sacred bulrushes that surrounded the wetlands, the Yokine, the Nyungar name for the Dingo Dreaming Track, now known as Dog Swamp, was a place of plentiful freshwater supply, feeding the great chewit trees that once grew on the surrounding hills, now known as Chewit Hill. Water was abundant where we now stand 150 years ago. A pristine waterway flowed strongly where Government House now stands. Many freshwater springs gave substance to life and the enigma of sacred spiritual water stories that were intellectually obtrusive to non-Aboriginal people. You measure this wealth of the land in terms of its mineral wealth, such as gold, silver, copper, nickel, iron ore, coal, gas, gemstones such as diamonds and opals, sapphires, and the yet-to-come full-scale mining of uranium. Our people measured the spiritual importance of this land in terms of the ochre, the ancient paint that differentiated man from all other life forms. White, representing women's law, gave evidence to the body fluids of life. The wetlands, the ancient law grounds of Nyungar women's religion. Red ochre, the Wilgi, the bloodline links with our great ancestral moieties, the Wadong, the Crow, and the Manage, the white cockatoo. The giving of the knowledge of skin groupings, and the great majestic Karak, the red-tailed black cockatoo, the fire-bringer, and Guya, the rainmaker. As a result of climate change, man will evolve very different to now. He may experience prior to these evolutionary changes the drying of his skin tissue, resulting in pigmentation change where minute blisters will be life-threatening to many yet unknown skin cancer types. His hair will be much less moist and will harden, brittle and dry. His eyesight will change as eyelashes and lids burn to their root systems. His blood will gain varying forms of pressure, introducing many unknown and alien sicknesses. He will seek man-made solace from the elements, as all natural means of cooling will be long destroyed by his greed and his lust for power. The rivers, the estuaries, the lakes and the swamps, the springs and the soaks, including all the once great wetlands that bore life and traditional stories of creation, will no longer exist. They will be poisoned man-made reservoirs, maintaining the residue of chemical wastage, polluting forever the beauty of this ancient land, the land where flowers once flourished. The entire southwest region once was a magnificent forest, stretching from Albany in the south to north of Perth. The Karri, the Jarrah, the Dryander and the Chewit trees that are unique to the southwest suffered extermination by the timber industry, pastoralists and the mining companies. Where once mighty forests flourished, now exist established wineries, tourist resorts, orchards, sheep and agricultural farming land. Magnificent totemic wildlife such as the wedge-tailed eagle, the waich, the emu, the red and white-tailed cockatoo, the dingoes, and many other considered vermin destructive to the success of the crop and the farming industries had government boundaries placed on their carcasses. They are now registered on either the endangered species list or they are extinct. The flora and the fauna that produced our traditional medicines are now commercialised by companies such as Mount Romance, taking from the saps alternatives for world cosmetics such as Max Factor, Revlon, Estee Lauder and others, while product market and list them as new age potions and lotions. Our sacred and significant land sites have become tourist meccas measured in their commercial viability, whilst you wine, dine and play golf and football on our once great ancient hunting grounds. Our sacred burial sites such as the old Yanship Caves, Lake Yarragadee at Joondalup, as well as the institutionalised grave sites such as Rottnest Island have been pillaged. The skeletal remains of our old people moved, turning these sites into playgrounds for affluent middle-class white Australia. The great Zamia sites and Belga sites that provided the strongest medicine for our people were under the direct cultural responsibility of Midjigaroo. These powerful sites were destroyed when the Swan Colony developed eastward. These medicine sites once and now host the location of the Burswood Casino. The Western world creates historical distortions by altering architecture and design. This is prevalent when you consider the massive changes in the redevelopment of places such as East Perth and Fremantle, where Nyungar people during periods of transition, their campfires burned on the fringes of these regions. You could be excused today for not knowing that an Aboriginal person ever lived in East Perth. Nyungar people have survived. We are born into a war from the womb to the grave, a silent war of religious prejudice and cultural dispossession, racism, police brutality, political and bureaucratic savagery and bigotry, a war that is fraught with mass ignorance, deliberate marginalisation, preconceived fears and media hype, a war fought only with the weapons of justice and the equality of humanity. Over the past 200 years, the land has been mismanaged by government. Bureaucracies such as CALM, the Department of Agriculture, State Forests and Fisheries, the Swan Catchment and other numerous local government bodies. Today, rallying up St George's Terrace in a time described as a once-in-a-generational boom time, beneath huge signs indicating the offices of corporations such as Woodside, Clough Engineering, BHP Billiton, Rio Tinto, Argyle, the banking corporations and the state government's ministers' offices from Western Australia's resource sector reap a massive $118 million a day, or $5 million per hour, equaling $80,000 per minute. An uncanny symbolic is that tonight in Western Australia, many Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people will go hungry and cold, crawling out from burnt-out old car bodies and from beneath the freeway bridges. Many will have no access to essential services, including power and water. This must be said, the Western Australian media, inclusive of print as well as electronic media, have suppressed the issue of the denigration of the environment, paying little attention to the irreversible damage while serving the interests of the power of greed and deceit, determining the interests of the wealthy. The Western Australian media pollutes the minds of people, maintaining the status quo of conservatism, racial oppression and social dominance. We cannot put our trust in any political party or trade union movement, for what have they done for any of us in the past? Our solace in this country will not be defined by academic doctrines, nor will it be pacified by introduced religious institutions. It will not be solicited from the halls of Geneva, nor will it be found in the greed of politics, where eruption of the very core of democracy is eroded by corruption and deceit, now more evident than ever. Another dollar in the advancement of progress is found deep up the hole of another fallen politician or trade union leader, foul in their attempt to distort truth with lies, whilst they maintain a hidden history. We must have the freedom to tell our story our way. Natural disasters, including extreme weather entities such as cyclones, hurricanes, tsunamis, tornadoes and massive floods, severe droughts and fire will become more frequent as the Earth's planning systems heal the damage caused by the continued burn offerings of mining, water dredging and logging. For how big a hole can the massive industrial hand dig before it collapses and creates the grave for humanity itself? This will be the ultimate cost of your greed, wealth and power. May our campfires burn forever.
Bum.